China is testing its neighbours with dragon power. What the dragon does not see, though, is that its aggression, expansionist and provocative actions are pushing neighbours to join hands against it. Take India and the Philippines, for example. New Delhi has openly extended its support for the Philippines for standing up for its sovereignty. India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, said, and I'm quoting, "I take this opportunity to firmly reiterate India's support to the Philippines for upholding its national sovereignty. We are also convinced that the progress and prosperity of this region is best served by staunch adherence to a rules-based order," quote unquote. Dr. Jaishankar was speaking in Manila, where he held talks with the Philippines Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Enrique Manalo, during which New Delhi and Manila agreed to accelerate maritime cooperation. The two sides have come closer over recent years. In fact, in 2022, the Philippines and India signed a $375 million order for BrahMos cruise missile. Philippines was the first country to import BrahMos, while New Delhi and Manila's growing partnership has a lot to do with defense, shared values, also commonalities. One cannot discount the elephant in the room, the common aggressor. That's China, of course. China began the week by playing its broken record as far as Arunachal Pradesh is concerned. The spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Ministry said that Arunachal Pradesh has always been Chinese territory. Except it has not. It's absurdity at best and a lie at worst that China has relentlessly been trying to sell to the world. All the more since India began ramping its border infrastructure. In this month alone, China has spoken about its claim over Arunachal Pradesh 4 times. But the question is, who is buying China's lies? What the world today is instead witness to is the extent of Chinese aggression, of Chinese terror driven by the hunger and the greed for territory. Some of you may be aware of what happened. Chinese vessels have once again fired water cannons at a Philippine ship. No points for guessing. It happened close to the second Thomas Shoal, which, like we have been telling you, is well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. But you see, China will not stop claiming this shoal. On Saturday, when a Filipino supply boat was on its way to the second Thomas Shoal, the vessel found itself surrounded by Chinese Coast Guard ships. It was 6 a.m. One of the Chinese Coast Guard vessels performed a dangerous maneuver. It crossed the bow of the supply boat, and an hour later, the Chinese Coast Guard conducted what's called a reverse blocking maneuver. What the Chinese Coast Guard was essentially doing was harassing the Filipino vessel. At one point, the Chinese Coast Guard nearly collided with the supply boat. But the worst was not over. The two Chinese Coast Guard vessels decided to attack the Filipino vessel with high-pressure water cannons. The supply boat was heavily damaged. It soon became immobile. All that the supply boat was trying to do was deliver essentials and personnel to a warship that the Philippines stationed at the second Thomas Shoal in 1999. Manila is calling Saturday's incident irresponsible and provocative. In fact, China claims all it did was take control measures. The United States and Japan expressed their support for the Philippines. India also has now made its support for the Philippines public. China did not take this well. You know, two neighbors standing up together to Chinese aggression. Look at how China responded to India's External Affairs Minister's statement. I'm reading out what China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said. I'm quoting, "Maritime disputes are issues between the countries concerned. Third parties have no right to interfere whatsoever," quote unquote. He went on to say that the relevant parties should, quote unquote, face squarely the facts and truth on the South China Sea issue and respect China's territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests and the efforts of regional countries to keep the South China Sea peaceful and stable, quote unquote. You see, there is no doubt that countries in the Indian Ocean, countries in the South China Sea and in the East China Sea are doing their bit, sometimes even going out of their way to ensure peace and stability in the region. But China claims to be part of the same club. What has it done to ensure peace in the region is the question. If anything, it has also added to the regional tensions, be it at sea or on land. In fact, following Saturday's incident, the armed forces of the Philippines said, and I'm quoting here, the systematic and consistent way in which China continues to carry out these illegal and irresponsible actions belies its hollow claims to peace, dialogue and adherence to international law. China claims almost all of the South China Sea. In 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration found that China's claims have no legal basis, just like its claim over Arunachal Pradesh. It's absurd at best, delusional at worst. What I'm about to tell you will go down in history books. For the first time ever, Saudi Arabia is all set to participate in the Miss Universe pageant. And who is going to represent the country? A well-known runway model from Riyadh, Rumi Al-Qahtani. In fact, she took to her Instagram page to share the exciting news. And in her post, she looked stunning in a silver-colored sequin gown. She also donned a Miss Universe Saudi Arabia sash and held up the Saudi flag in her hand. She wrote, and I'm quoting, "This is a major achievement for Saudi Arabia as we enter the global arena of beauty and diversity." The 27-year-old has already made a name for herself in the beauty pageant industry. Apart from being crowned Miss Saudi Arabia, she holds titles like Miss Middle East, Miss Arab World Peace 2021, Miss Woman Saudi Arabia. She also competed in several competitions, including Miss Arab World, Miss Asia, Miss Global, Miss Woman International, and Miss Planet International. And now she's all set to compete in the Miss Universe event, which will be held in Mexico on the 18th of September. Rumi has 1 million followers on Instagram, thousands more on other social media platforms. She holds a bachelor's degree in dentistry. She's fluent in English, French, Arabic. Saudi Arabia's participation in the pageant comes amid a series of progressive steps taken by the kingdom to modernize and also diversify its economy, all under the rule of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Notably, the country has been actively encouraging tourism, opening its doors to international visitors and unveiling ambitious plans to develop tourism infrastructure and attractions. Earlier in the year, it opened its first liquor store as well. And now comes its entry into the pageant. Since it's a first, there is a lot of curiosity, also questions around the rules and the dress code. What would Rumi wear? Will she have to cater to any restrictions given the conservatism of her country? Earlier, some beauty queens have stuck to dressing modestly. Miss Universe Bahrain, Evelyn Khalifa, wore an abaya at the pageant. Another element is the swimwear round, in fact. Khalifa's Miss Bahrain predecessor, Manar Nadeem Dayani, made history as she chucked the bikini and took to the stage wearing a modest activewear look during the 2021 Miss Universe pageant. In fact, previous contestants have chosen to wear hijabs and burkinis as well. After all, it all comes down to their comfort. Organizers have surprisingly been supportive of their choices as well. Rumi, however, has made head turns in all kinds of versatile dresses at her previous pageants. Meanwhile, in Gaza, tragedy continues. Airdrops, which are supposed to bring relief to Gazans, are resulting in deaths. It's a nightmare, to say the least. At least 5 people were killed, 10 others injured, when airdropped aid packages fell on them. This was in the Al-Shati camp west of Gaza City. Eyewitnesses say that they saw the aid packages falling from planes, but cannot confirm which country was behind the airdrop. This is the latest, by the way, in a string of incidents involving deaths during aid deliveries in Gaza, where some people are foraging for weeds to eat and baking barely edible bread from animal feed. early this week, at least 12 Palestinians drowned off the northern Gaza coast near Beit Lahia while trying to reach airdropped parcels that had landed in the sea. Footage shows hundreds of Palestinians rushing to the site of the airdrop, with some venturing into the water. The aid was dropped far from the coast into the sea. To retrieve this much aid, multiple men who don't even know how to swim ventured out to the sea, drowning in the process. This is the tragedy of Gaza today. Starved, shelterless, and desperate. Civilians are struggling every day to find food in Gaza. Aid agencies say only about a fifth of the required supplies are being allowed into Gaza. Only a fifth. Why is that, you may be asking? It's because Israel, apart from pushing ahead with its offensive, is also blocking aid to Gaza. There is an aid delivery crisis. The UN Secretary General has urged Israel to give an ironclad commitment for unfettered aid access into Gaza. Guterres also described the number of trucks blocked at the border as a moral outrage. But Israel says that it puts no limit on the amount of humanitarian aid entering Gaza. Now, despite what Israel says, distribution of aid inside Gaza has been complicated, and this is particularly the case in the north. Remember, last month, health authorities in Gaza said Israeli troops killed more than 100 people who were trying to take aid from a convoy. Israel's military has disputed that account. They blame it on the people. And what's more, Israel has also banned the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees. It is the main UN agency working in Gaza. Israel has blocked it from carrying out aid deliveries in North Gaza. Israel accuses this UN agency of working with Hamas. The agency denies it is complicit with Hamas, of course, and is waiting the results of the investigation into its handling of the accusations, which have led some donors to pause funding. The UN Humanitarian Office has urged Israel to revoke the ban, but so far its appeals to Israel have fallen on deaf ears.